Well, I'll get some of the mic in the shot here.
Let me get my mic. Yeah, my mic's in there, so we're good.
I think so.
Cool. Right on. So, my name's Tim Darmick, and this is Georgina Speaks, and I cannot tell you how happy I am to have with me today Tom Sandler. He's a nationally renowned photographer, and I cannot say go look it up because you'll be quite impressed. So, Tom, thank you so much for doing this today, and let's jump in,
Okay. Well, it's nice to be here. Thank you for having me. And I've always been a big fan of Georgina, and I've actually lived here in one way or another most of my life.
I wondered. I didn't know how deep your roots were.
Yeah, they're pretty deep. My parents, we had a family cottage since the late 1950s.
Wow.
On at Willow Beach on Rockaway Road.
Oh yeah, so there.
And that was our original cottage, and just great growing up in this atmosphere.
Remember what the number of the cottage was?
No, I don't.
I was with somebody last night.
It was up from the lake. It was near Metro. I don't know.
Okay. The reason I asked is I went to meet with somebody last night who bought and renovated 815, but it seemed like a little bit of a special cottage. I thought maybe it might have been it, but anyway.
No, it actually is not there anymore. It was it actually burned down after we sold it, and they put up this little shed there. The garage is still standing, and it was a huge property, and it was just wonderful being a kid growing up in those days with the ice truck coming, and wonderful memories.
I guess. So you're back and forth to Toronto, and that may be a good place to start. So I obviously, it's the internet these days. So I looked up a whole bunch of stuff, and I guess we might, we can do 15 minutes or so, a little bit of time on your mom and where you started.
Sure.
Clearly, where you started out. So it would be your grandfather was a grocer in Toronto.
Yes, that's right.
And then he moved to LA.
Yes, they moved to I think it was Berkeley actually, or Glendale, California.
Oh yeah.
And but for not a long period of time, it was about 7 years. And then they moved back to Toronto because he had some difficulties in business.
Yeah.
And they came back to Toronto. And my mom was very young. She was probably a young teenager at the time, or just mid-teens, a little before mid-teens.
Yeah, well, that takes me to where I have my next question. Did you ever figure out how your mother ended up playing piano in a song store?
Yes. She needed to pay the rent, basically.
Well, I guess so, yeah. As a teenager, that's kind of where it says that's where she started out. That's what I read anyway.
Yeah. Well, sadly, my grandfather passed away very young and unexpectedly.
That's what I understand.
And my mom was only 15 years old when that happened. It was around 1935.
That's tough, eh?
And it was very tough. It was during the middle of the Depression. They really didn't have anything. He didn't leave anything. And but my mom had this amazing outgoing personality, and she had this gift of music, and she loved. She played.
Did she have any influence?
She learned formal music. I think in California, classical music, and but she was just not a classical musician. She was just more cool than that, and she loved to play jazz and make up her own stuff. And she was a really gifted musician. So circumstances, one thing led to another, and she ended up getting this job demonstrating music in a little store on Yonge Street
called the Song Shop.
Called the Song Shop.
Yeah.
And musicians would come in. It was before you had tapes and before you had recordings and anything like that. If a musician wanted to hear some music, they actually had a live musician in the store playing it. So that was killed a lot of birds with one stone. It gave somebody a job and had you listening to live music.
So there was none of this in those days. You just
and my mom was a very good musician. She really played deeply from the heart, and she was quite attractive. So I think that didn't hurt her selling a lot of sheet music.
Well, you know what, too? I can't imagine. I would imagine in those days, like all the music community would know her. Like, oh, go down and see, Ruth Lowe. She's at this.
Yeah,
she plays amazing.
I'm sure that happened, but fate sort of stepped in at that point, and there was a very famous all-women's jazz band in the U.S. called the Ina Ray Hutton Orchestra.
Yeah.
And if you know the movie Some Like It Hot with Tony Curtis and I think it was Jack Lemmon, that movie was modeled after that orchestra, the Ina Ray Hutton Band.
Oh yeah.
There was only one all-women's jazz orchestra in a very male-dominated big band industry.
Yeah.
And she came into Toronto, Ina Ray Hutton, to play, and they had somehow either their piano player couldn't get across the border because of certain circumstances, or she was sick.
Right,
I'm not sure. We don't know what.
In those days, you never know.
Anyways,
for sure.
Probably was that she couldn't get across the border being a musician. But anyways. Ina Ray was in a bind because she had to do a big show that night and she needed a piano player. So she called up the Toronto Musicians Union and she asked them, do you know any female piano players that could handle this kind of stuff, swing and big band stuff? And they were all platinum blondes as well. Yeah. So she said it wouldn't hurt if she was blonde, and it turns out that my mom happened to fit both those.
Talk about a stroke of luck. Blondes is another whole history we can take up another time. So, fast forward to, so she toured with that band for a while. She actually got a...
She got the gig for the night, and I didn't realize how great a musician my mom was, and she fit right in with the band. She was the right age, the right look, the right skills, and a really good person to hang with. And so she offered her a full-time job.
Very good.
With the travel with the band. And it was a real crossroad at my mom's life because it was very tough because she really, at that point, was the sole support of the family. And my aunt Mickey was younger, and my mom was the oldest, and so my mom was only 15 or 16 or so, and so it was a very tough decision. She had to decide to leave the family and go on the road with this band, but this was a huge break and a big opportunity. So she decided to take a shot at it. How many times do you get a chance like that? And that was really the beginning of her real professional musical career, and they traveled all over.
Making a living as a professional.
Making a living as a professional, and everywhere they went, wherever she got paid or wherever she had money, she would send whatever she could back to the family, and kept supporting them. Yeah. And she would send clothes and furniture and anything whatever they were making in those days, that was big money compared to,
and coming right out of the Depression, too.
And coming out of the Depression, so it kind of unfolded for her nicely.
So during that time period, she also did her own writing and stuff. And at some point, she just, the fate, as fate would have it, she had recorded one song that she had written with one guy, and that person had given that recording.
Well, it's a longer story, but and it's a very romantic story because when she was in the band, she had they landed in Chicago to play a couple nights, and somebody introduced her to a very handsome guy. He was a music a plugger in Chicago, and they went out and they fell in love with each other, and my mom was 23. I think she was around 23.
It was Cohen.
And it was Harold Cohen was his name. And he sort of looked like Warren Beatty. He was tall, dark and handsome.
Tall, dark and handsome.
So my mom, fantastic. She had just lost her father. All these hard times are happening. She finally meets somebody. She's got a great career going. Now she meets Prince Charming, the guy of her dreams. And they ended up getting married. And then in the first year of their marriage, Harold went in for some routine surgery, and he passed away the night of the surgery. And that was it. And that was it. And that was just like a staggering blow for my mom. She was 23, and once again, a person that meant so much to her was gone. So she came back to Toronto because she was just so grieved and heartbroken that she moved in with my aunt and her mom, and then she kept going to the piano. And one night she went over to the piano not long after she got back home, and she just started to play things that she was feeling, and she kept saying to my aunt all those days before that. She said to my aunt, her name was Mickey. She said, Mickey, I'll never smile again. I'll never smile again. I'll never smile again.
Yeah, well, you know what?
At the piano that night, and guess what she wrote? I'll never smile again until
Pretty
I smile
amazing,
at you.
yeah.
So the song was really written for her first husband, Harold, and the heartbreak that she felt. And
Right from the soul.
it really was.
Yeah,
it truly was. And it was such a healing process for my mom. She worked at the CBC. She got a job at the CBC. And she took the music in to a friend of hers, and there was a fellow, a very famous arranger, a musician, Percy Faith was his name. He was the head of the CBC orchestra, and she got the song to him, and he played it, and he loved it, and he said, I'm going to arrange this song. And he went and arranged it, and they made a full recording of it and broadcast it on the CBC the first time, before Sinatra heard it, before Tommy Dorsey heard it. And they ended up giving my mom a 78 of the recording, and then Tommy Dorsey's, the next sort of page happened where Dorsey's band was coming to Toronto. Every year the big bands would come and play the CNE at the band show. So this was on the circuit. So Dorsey's band was coming to Toronto. He had just hired Frank Sinatra to sing with him, and he had not had a hit song. His career wasn't really even launched at all. And my mom knew somebody, a woman who knew somebody who was going out with somebody in Dorsey's band.
Yeah,
It's all kind of
always the connections. You never know what they're going to be either.
incestuous.
Yeah, of course, of course.
So she sets up a meeting between herself, my mom, and Tommy Dorsey. And it was, I think, at the Royal York Hotel. And she went to see them, and she had this incredible 78 fully orchestrated, arranged recording of the song, which was very unusual for a woman, or anybody really, to have a finished product
of their own music.
So they thought, oh wow, this is going to be, so maybe this is serious, you know. So they listened to it, and the same thing happened. Dorsey said, that's the song, that's the song. It's simple, it's real, it's deep. And the timing was amazing because the war had just broken out, and everybody in North America, and especially in the U.S., was losing their love because they were going to the war.
People going to war.
So this song was like it was like a sympathetic vibration, you know, to everybody that could relate to it.
Yeah, the good ones usually are, like the amazing ones.
They're fairly simple, and they're just honest. You know, they're really just honest songs. And anyways, they loved it, they recorded it, they put it out, and it went through the roof. And that was like the biggest, deepest love song that, you know, at that time. And Sinatra became Frank Sinatra at that point. And, you know, he was the first pop star really in music history, Sinatra. And it was amazing that my mom was in the States. They say she's like the architect of one of the architects of the American ballad. You know, which is cool.
Yeah, it is cool. It's actually, well, I was looking into this a little bit further, and then there's a little interesting story about that. Her original manuscript, her original material that she wrote that song. There was a woman by the name of Guthrie. There was a friend of hers that ended up with it.
That's right.
And then she seen that your mother was going to be on the documentary.
You've done your homework.
And she learned that you were around.
That's right.
And she didn't know what to do with it. And out of respect for your mother, she got a hold of you.
Well, yes. And she lived in Winnipeg.
Yeah,
and I get an email from her and saying, Tom, you won't believe the story, but I worked with your mom at the CBC. I was the one that gave the song to Percy Faith.
I was dating the band there. I was the one. Yeah, that's. Well,
so she said, excuse me, I've kept this manuscript. This was about 15 years ago.
Yeah.
Not that long ago.
Yeah, 2002 or 5.
Yeah,
2005. Yeah, it was 2005.
And she said, all these years I've kept the manuscript. Your mom gave me the handwritten manuscript of the song.
The hair stood up on my arm when I read that.
She said, I've kept it and kept it and kept it all these years, hoping that I would connect with somebody in her family so I could return it to you, to the right person. She said, I thought so many times of giving it to the Sinatras, but something told me to hold on to it and not to do it. So she did. She said, I kept it. We had a piano in the basement, and we had we kept all our manuscripts and music in the bench of the piano.
Right.
She said, we had a flood once, and the water went up 2 feet just below the piano bench. She said nothing the piano bench got destroyed. She said this was like meant to be type of thing.
100%. Well,
So-
you know, that restores my faith in humanity. Like there's things like that.
I
happen
know,
like that.
it's, yeah.
People that do the right thing in the end.
Yeah,
I mean, she could have phoned somebody and said, "Oh, there's some money here, you know, whatever."
Absolutely,
but her heart-
absolutely. Well, there was another
good heart.
mission going on there, you know.
Well,
so I ended up flying to Winnipeg, and I got the manuscript, and she
Nice.
gave it to me, and we spent the day together. She was just, I was her
Sweetheart.
daughter actually.
Oh, yeah.
And she was just terrific, and it was such a kind act that she did.
it sure
And,
was.
It was like
It caught my eye in the whole scheme of things. It was one of my favorite
It's really
parts.
interesting. I've been on this journey about getting my mom known and recognized, and maybe getting some of her other music out there and to be recorded. And
What happened with Peter Mansbridge? The book that you and Peter Mansbridge did, wasn't there?
No.
You were re-releasing something that Peter Mansbridge, not Peter Jennings, I think it was. Sorry, you know what? I'm.
Oh no, well, Peter's the one who's doing the book now. We're doing the book now.
Right. Okay. That's so. I don't know where I got it. That Peter
No.
Jennings. Yeah, you're doing a book. You and him are doing a book together.
Yes,
Yeah.
we're doing
Okay.
a book
Sorry.
now, and if I can,
I thought it said a re-release of a book when I.
Oh
read it.
no! This is the first time we've done it.
Oh, okay. So that's great. So.
I thought if you'd like, I'll show you.
Yeah, I have the. I cheated. I got it off of your Facebook page.
Oh, you got it.
Yeah, so I
You have it. Okay,
yeah.
good.
In case I don't know if we mentioned this, but it probably would be relevant to this part of the story.
Yes.
Your mom's name was Ruth Lowe. I
Yes.
don't think either one of us has actually said that right yet. So.
Oh yes,
Yeah.
that's right. So, yes,
Might
sorry.
Might want to help get her better known if we say her name.
You can't do everything, you know.
No,
but
it's
yes,
Ruth
that's,
Lowe, and
that's
she wrote
actually a very
Frank
good.
Sinatra's first hit song, and it was "I'll Never,
I'll Never Smile Again was the song that launched his career, and then she wrote his theme song called "Put Your Dreams Away" for Another Day. And Frank and my mom were friends, and he loved her writing. He thought she was just a genius.
Yeah, of course.
And he actually, in fact, asked her to write the second song. It wasn't like she wrote it. She says, "Oh, I have another song you want to hear." He called her up and said, "Ruthie," he says, "Listen, I'm looking for a theme song. Do you think there's something you can
put together?
You can get to us, you know?" And so she collaborated with a couple of buddies in New York, and they knocked off the song called "Put Your Dreams Away" for Another Day. And he used that to close every show, every radio show, every live show. And then when he passed away at his funeral, after the service at his funeral, that was the last song that they played for him, that the family wanted to be played, and he wanted to have played for him. Not "My Way" or anything modern.
No.
It was like from the back,
Put
the
Your
old
Dreams
days.
Away
It
for
was
Another Day.
"Put Your Dreams Away for Another Day" was his all-time favorite song.
My
So-
dad, I used to watch. Well, you know, when I was 10 years old, it was. It would be like Red Skeleton, and then Thursday night Dean Martin, and then Friday night would be whatever it was, Lawrence Welk, and then Saturday night Ed Sullivan, and then all that era.
Yeah.
You know, I listened to all those as a kid because that's what my dad watched every week. You know. Pretty amazing time.
Same with us, and I actually met. My mom knew a lot of celebrities,
I bet.
and Ed Sullivan happened to be one of the people that she met because when she was in her heyday in her songs, he was a columnist.
Oh yeah.
In the New York, I don't know much which paper it was, but I have 3 big scrapbooks. My mom kept everything that was ever written on her or photographed about her. And,
so you have a big slice of history that you have to take care of there.
Yeah. And anyways, he was he wrote about her a lot of times, and so did actually Walter Winchell, who was he didn't like a lot of people apparently, Walter Winchell, but he was very kind to my mom. So she was just that kind of a nice person who was like not everybody's like that.
No,
who's
that's
that
for sure,
big
especially
or
in
that
that
gifted.
business.
You know? That's right. So
yeah, for sure. So I guess yourself as a kid, running around the house, you know, when all this was going on.
Yes.
Did your mom cook?
Yes, she did.
What was your favorite thing that she used to cook?
She was very creative, my mom. So she had a lot. She did a lot. Like main course or dessert.
Like when you come home and you knew she was cooking your favorite meal when you were a kid.
Well, she made a mean roast beef with Yorkshire pudding, which was quite a good.
Yeah.
She made a tremendous chocolate souffle that was awesome.
Wow.
But we would come home and there would always be something special going on. Like she would have a fondue dinner night,
Yeah.
where we'd all be sticking the
Yeah.
meat into the burning
Something new,
boiling
just
oil.
try something new.
Or she would whip up, she took a Chinese food course, and she would make Chinese food.
Yeah, that was actually pretty
sometimes,
popular in those days.
You
Well, I'll tell you what made me ask that is because I was reading your story about when that was coming up on the History Channel, and then
Yes.
you had gotten involved in it, and you said that your mother would be very happy that you were happy doing this because her children being happy was very big.
Yeah.
So that just it was.
Yeah, I think that she. She was double blessed, and she was sort of not cursed, but she was doubly blessed because she had this gift and she had this amazing career.
Yeah.
And she also had a great family and love
it meant a lot.
and security, and both things were very important to her. The family, I think, because of the family, I think the family actually took first place because she actually sort of put her career on the back burner.
Yeah, clearly it did.
And when she got remarried, she remarried my dad.
It's Nathan
Sandler, Nat Sandler, in 1945.
Yeah.
And
the day that's the year the World War II ended.
well, that's true too. Yeah. And then they settled down in Toronto, and in those days, Toronto was a really closed down, deadbeat town, like the 40s, the 50s. It wasn't like New York or Chicago or LA where there's any kind of jazz scene, music scenes.
Yeah.
There were no clubs, there was nothing, no musicians here.
Yeah.
And my mom was sort of pulled out of that atmosphere and put into this Toronto scene where, but she changed her focus to
and
the
made
family.
The best of it.
And she did make the best of it. And she constantly played. She was always rewriting stuff and trying to get another hit out there, hit another one out there. But it was hard for her because she didn't really have the environment, the atmosphere like she did in New York and also she was a lot happier. And I think sometimes when sometimes they do their best work when they're unhappy or heartbreak, it happens. So it's unfortunate, but that's partially true.
So at another time, we're going to have to do an entire on your mom, like
more.
Yeah, well, there's a whole evolution there, and there's a number of people that you are aware of that she met and circumstances.
Yeah.
But today, I'm really interested in your career.
My career.
Yeah, it's pretty.
Well, let me just give you a plug now because we've written the book.
Take your time.
With Peter Jennings, who's the actually author. I'm just I'm the kind of the co-pilot on the book.
Right.
And
you're the historian.
We got we have a publisher. She's Castle Carrington Publishing in Victoria, BC. And we're going to launch it, we hope, at the end of this month, November, and be out for Christmas. And it's called Until I Smile at You. And Peter did some amazing interviews. We've got people like Bernie Taupin.
Peter Jennings is an amazing.
We got Frank Sinatra Jr. We David Clayton Thomas. We have all kinds of people who are commenting on her music and what it meant. And then we have all the stories of her personal with me and growing up and funny incidences.
And it's funny too because I read a lot, everything I could find and so on, and had nothing but good remarks about your mother and her demeanor and her people had kind things to say.
Yeah.
And you can tell when you're reading when people are just saying kind things to say kind things, or whether they actually mean by the way that they say it.
Yeah.
And you could tell your mother was
she was
beloved.
She was a very generous and kind-hearted woman, and very loyal to her friends and to her family, and generous. She had a lot, and she shared a lot, and if she would find a sculptor or a painter, an artist that she liked, she wouldn't just buy one piece of his work. She would buy like 6 of them. Yeah. And she would give them out to people, like my Aunt Mickey, her sister, give one to me, to my brother. She'd always be sharing,
supporting.
It was just wonderful. It was such a great vibe around the energy she had,
So that would be the book that you and Peter Jennings are doing. That's going to be coming out hopefully by Christmas, the end of this year. Yes. And
and you can get it. It'll be a hard copy, but it'll also be an electronic version of it. You can get it on. We have a website. It's www.untilismileatyou.com.
Right.
So you can see information about her, and we're going to put more of the pictures up on that website.
And I will, whatever I can do on my site, every time I podcast, no matter what. No, I love your mother's story. It's amazing, and it takes me back to when I was a kid with my dad. Like all that stuff. Absolutely. And it's a huge slice of Canadian history that people
Yeah.
You should really know.
Well, people don't really know the writers as much as they do the performers, and especially back from those days.
But from those days, a long time, there's so many Canadians, especially the 60s and 70s.
I know. Well,
and they would just go out of their way not to have it known because they didn't want to be.
Oh, well, that's probably true.
Like it was a big thing in those days. Not like people were not promoting. There's a lot of great Canadian work was getting done, and nobody was knowing about it.
Yeah, I found out because my mom was the inspiration for to start the Canadian Music Songwriters Hall of Fame.
Oh, nice.
So both her songs are inducted into that the first year, and it honored songwriters because they realized that, you know what, there's some of the top songs in the world are written by Canadians, and nobody ever knows about them, like Red River Valley, and I mean that's there's so many of them.
It's old, but it's a pretty damn famous song. It's almost still Red River Valley is almost still a household. I don't know anybody who doesn't know about it.
That's right. Yeah. It's the first song you learn when you learn to